Government Psychological Experimentation and Generational Targeting, a Historical and Contemporary Examination. Introduction. Governments have long engaged in psychological experimentation and operations to influence behavior, extract information, and maintain control. From Cold War-era mind control programs to modern digital influence campaigns, these efforts often raise profound ethical questions. While direct generational targeting, deliberately focusing on specific age cohorts or passing effects across family lines, remains a niche and sometimes speculative concept, evidence from declassified documents, academic studies, and survivor accounts suggests long-term impacts that can span generations. This article explores historical examples of government psychological experimentation, the mechanics of psychological operations, PSYOPs, and how these practices intersect with generational dynamics, drawing on substantiated sources to separate fact from conjecture. Historical government psychological experiments. The United States government's involvement in psychological experimentation peaked during the Cold War, driven by fears of communist brainwashing techniques. One of the most famous programs was Project MK-Ultra, initiated by the CIA in 1953 and officially halted in 1973. MK-Ultra aimed to develop mind control methods for inter-gout interrogations, including the creation of a truth serum and techniques to manipulate foreign leaders. The program involved over 150 sub-projects conducted at universities, hospitals, prisons, and other institutions, often without subjects' consent, violating the Nuremberg Code established after World War II Nazi experiments. Methods included administering high doses of LSD to unwitting individuals, electroconvulsive therapy, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and psychological torture. Subjects ranged from mental patients and prisoners to CIA employees and the general public, including vulnerable groups. In Operation Midnight Climax, part of MK-Ultra, men were lured to CIA safe houses in San Francisco, dosed with LSD, and observed through two-way mirrors to study behavioral responses and potential blackmail opportunities. Canadian psychiatrist Dr. Donald Ewan Cameron conducted depatterning experiments at the Allen Memorial Institute, inducing comas and amnesia in patients, many of whom suffered permanent cognitive impairments. Ethical violations were rampant. Experiments lacked informed consent, targeted marginalized populations, and resulted in deaths, such as that of Army scientist Frank Olson, who fell from a hotel window after being secretly dosed with LSD. Congressional investigations in the 1970s, including the Church Committee, exposed these abuses, but much evidence was destroyed on CIA orders. Similar unethical practices occurred in other contexts, such as Nazi-era psychological experiments in psychiatric clinics, where children and ethnic minorities were subjected to research on mental disorders, often leading to euthanasia or lifelong trauma. Long-term effects included psychological debilitation, with survivors experiencing amnesia, incontinence, and altered personalities. While not explicitly designed for generational targeting, these experiments had ripple effects. Families of victims, like Olson's, pursued justice for decades, and cultural fallout influenced societal attitudes toward drugs and authority. Psychological operations and their evolution. Beyond experimentation, governments employ psychological operations, PSYOPs, to influence foreign and domestic audiences. U.S. PSYOPs, formalized during World War I and expanded in subsequent conflicts, aim to affect emotions, motives, and behaviors through propaganda, misinformation, and tailored messaging. Methods include leaflets, radio broadcasts, social media, and black propaganda that conceals its source. Historical examples show targeting of specific demographics. In Korea, PSYOPs encouraged defections among enemy troops. In Vietnam, leaflets promoted surrenders among Viet Cong fighters. More recently, a 2020 U.S. campaign used fake social media accounts to undermine Chinese COVID-19 vaccines in the Philippines, targeting Muslim communities with culturally sensitive claims. These operations often exploit vulnerabilities in groups, such as economic insecurities or cultural fears. In the digital age, PSYOPs have evolved into psychographic profiling, where big data and personality models, ocean traits, enable micro-targeting. Cambridge Analytica's role in the 2016 Brexit referendum and U.S. election involved segmenting voters into groups like disaffected Tories and delivering personalized ads to sway opinions or suppress turnout. This raises concerns about coercion, as messages exploit psychological traits without transparency. Generational targeting, Evidence and implications. Generational targeting refers to strategies that either focus on specific age groups or create effects that persist across family lines. While direct evidence of governments systematically experimenting on generations is limited, indirect impacts are well documented. In historical experiments, long-term trauma from MKUltra and similar programs can transmit intergenerationally through epigenetic changes, alterations in gene expression without DNA sequence changes. Studies on Holocaust survivors show their children exhibit modified stress hormone responses, suggesting inherited trauma effects. Modern implications and ethical concerns. Today, government psychological efforts persist in areas like counterterrorism and election influence, but with greater scrutiny. The U.S. military PSYOPs doctrine emphasizes influencing adversaries while adhering to policy, yet incidents like illegal domestic targeting of senators highlight abuses. Public opinion largely opposes data-driven targeting, with surveys showing discomfort over privacy invasions. Conspiracy theories, such as multi-generational satanic ritual abuse linked to MKUltra, appear in online discussions but lack empirical support. Nonetheless, substantiated cases underscore the need for oversight. Declassification efforts, like the 2024 release of MKUltra documents, reveal ongoing relevance. Government psychological experimentation and PSYOPs have evolved from crude drug trials to sophisticated digital targeting, with generational implications arising from trauma inheritance and demographic-specific strategies. While claims of deliberate multi-generational control often veer into speculation, historical abuses like MKUltra demonstrate real harms that echo across time. Strengthening ethical guidelines and transparency is essential to prevent future violations, ensuring psychological tools serve defense rather than domination.